Hi, I'm Mart, and you're watching Mart's Movies Review here on nearmedia.tv. Wherever you are, we're here. Today I'm going to talk about the movies of Ridley Scott. And I'm going to talk about his movies Alien, Someone to Watch Over Me, and finally Gladiator. So I'm going to start today with the movie Alien from 1979, directed by Ridley Scott and written by Dan O'Bannon, who had written the movie Dark Star for John Carpenter, the Halloween director. And the film had a famous tagline, "In space, no one can hear you scream." It's a famous tagline to the film. And it was a story that came to Scott. Scott was after making his first movie called The Duelist with Robert Carradine and Harvey Keitel. And he got gold really at film because of David Putnam. He was in an advertising company making advertisements and TV commercials. He started with the BBC. He went over to America as well, worked with Penny Baker, the famous documentary filmmaker. So he was an artist as well, and he was able to design pictures and storyboards. He was kind of like Alfred Hitchcock, like that. He grew up in kind of the north of England. His famous brother, Tony Scott, who'd go on and make kind of flashy 1980s movies. And I'll be doing a review on Tony Scott very soon as well. But the story of Alien is just kind of a kind of a monster movie about a group of space engineers who go off exploring space, and there's an alarm signal, and that due to their code, their space regulations, they have to investigate the alarm signal, this distress alarm. So they go onto another planet. A few of them take off on a kind of mini spacecraft, and they go looking and exploring. On the planet itself, they find a kind of a disused spacecraft, and they enter the spacecraft, and they're just seeing just different objects as they go along. And they find a pod of eggs, and they're not quite sure what it is. And they go investigating one of the crew, and one of the eggs kind of hits the person in the visor, cracks the glass of the astronaut's helmet. But it turns out there's not really blood that's kind of coming from the kind of creature, the egg. It's some kind of acid. So they're careful about that creature. So they go back onto the main ship anyway, and the crew, and one of the crew members is saying, just let the astronaut come aboard. And Ripley, played by Sigourney Weaver, is saying, look, let's put him in isolation, put him in quarantine for a while. But one of the crew, played by Ian Holm, says, no, just let him come on board. They come on board anyway. And it's John Hurt who's been invaded by the creature in a certain way. And everything is kind of, they explored the planet. There's no real people to save or rescue or any entities. So they're going back to Earth anyway in the spacecraft. And they're just having a meal or something on board. And then John Hurt is kind of feeling sick all of a sudden, and he ends up on the table, and he's in convulsions. And the rest of the crew don't really know what's happening to him. And his stomach starts like mumbling and trembling, and the kind of creature emerges from his stomach and just goes flying across the ground and disappears into the ship. Like they spend a lot of the movie then trying to find the creature. Well, they don't realize the creature is growing and developing as it's out in the spaceship, and it turns into a real kind of scary kind of monster. And it's a race against time then to try and get the creature, cage the creature as they're going back to Earth on their spacecraft. And it's a suspense horror, as people would say. Like it's not really just a thriller, kind of suspense. It's really, the creature was well drawn out, and you don't really see the creature all the time, and you see flashes of it, which kind of makes it more kind of suspenseful and tension filled. And it became a great movie for female heroes. You have Ridley and Ripley. It was it's got a female hero film, and like on the back of Dan O'Bannon's Halloween, like another female hero with Jamie Lee Curtis in that role at the end, the kind of sister of Mike Myers in the film. Like, you know, she comes a kind of hero and heroine at the end of the film, you know, in slasher genre. And the same kind of happens in the following year in Alien. You know, there's kind of a female hero having to deal with the creature, kind of what they would call like a man v animal in the kind of genres of horror. You know, it became a big hit at the time. It was kind of mixed reviews of the film. It wasn't appreciated as much. Maybe that's because of Ridley Scott's style. Usually style over substance, you know. He chooses more visual imagery over like better storytelling, and he's always been criticized of that. I mean, his next film as well, I want to talk about Someone to Watch Over Me. Like the critics, Ebert and Siskel, kind of say the same as well. Like the kind of characters are just kind of surface characters. In that film with Tom Berenger and Mimi Rogers, they like the character of Lorraine Bracco more because she's more kind of earthy and more charming. Where they feel like the other characters are more stilted, still kind of creatures, just kind of put in kind of ciphers, put in that in the role. But I mean, that's a great kind of romantic thriller, Someone to Watch Over Me as well. I mean, it's more of a thriller, like basically Mimi Rogers sees a murder. It's the actor who played the one-armed man in The Fugitive. He's in that film as well, and Mimi Rogers has an art friend, and he's set up a new art gallery, and she's going to the open night, and the guy, his kind of partner, is kind of unhappy with him for not asking him for money to set up the art gallery. He probably feels like he's leaving in a partnership. Gets into a big fight with him anyway, and he kills him, and Mimi Rogers sees the murder. So now she's on kind of witness protection. Whilst the party's going on at the art gallery, there's another party over across the street in New York where like Tom Berenger is just a cop, and he becomes a detective. So there's kind of two happenings at the same time, and Berenger and Rogers get together anyway because there's a few people looking after her. And Berenger is one of those detectives, has to kind of keep an eye on her, keep her safe. And there's a few occasions throughout the film where she goes to certain venues and places, and the bad guy nearly gets her, and Berenger saves her. And they kind of start a love affair then, and then Beringer's all confused. He's with his wife and the kid at home, and then he's with this kind of woman, another part of town, living that kind of high life. And I think someone had told me about that film as well. It was kind of a suspense story. They knew I was into suspense stories, and it's really well filmed to begin with. You know, as usual, you see the great shots, the kind of night shots of New York, the Chrysler Building, which is kind of, you can see all types of TV shows and movies that kind of copy his style. We see it in Law and Order. You know, they copy his kind of flashy kind of intro style of night shots of the city. And Michael Mann and himself kind of get on as friends, and Michael Mann is a great night vision director as well, a visual flair stylist as well as Ridley Scott. Scott had like made a movie before, Someone to Watch Over Me, called Legend, with Tom Cruise. It was kind of a fantasy film. It didn't really go down well. Of course, he made the kind of cult hit movie Blade Runner, which a lot of people didn't like. They liked the style of the film, and today you see the style, the rain and the darkness and the kind of neon lights and flashy kind of Japanese type videos in a lot of commercials, TV shows, and movies. But at the time, it was kind of fresh, and they're asking Ridley Scott why was he always showing rain and darkness in his movies. I grew up in the dark and the rain in the North of England, up around Newcastle. So that's why he was doing that. But the movie Someone to Watch Over Me, I think it's based on the Gershwin song as well. George Gershwin, Irish Gershwin's song Someone to Watch Over Me. It was played by a lot of artists over the years. And there's nice music in the film as well. I like the soundtrack of the film. But like Lorraine Bracco then would turn up 2 years later in Goodfellas, and then you see her then as the psychiatrist in Sopranos. Mimi Rogers was with Tom Cruise, married to Tom Cruise. Like, I thought she was an interesting actress. Like, she was good, but she didn't do many roles. And you know, but she was great in that role as Claire. And you know, Tom Berenger. in the role with him, with her. Like, the final film I'm going to talk about is Gladiator. Gladiator was released in 2000. As people would say, it was a sword and sandals film. We hadn't seen many of them before. Like we haven't seen many of them basically for a long, long time. And Ridley Scott wanted to make a big kind of Colosseum film, like show the whole Colosseum, and he used kind of technology to show, the people in a kind of full Colosseum that was there at the time. So the technology helped him with that, but he don't do too much of it as well. He has some great actors, character actors in the film, like the story of Marcus Aurelius and his kind of general, played by Russell Crowe, Maximus Decimus Minius, and they're fighting the Germanic tribes, and they're fighting them off, and they come back to Rome. And Richard Harris, his character, the Emperor, he just wants a new, refreshed Roman Republic. He doesn't want his son Commodus, played by Joaquin Phoenix, to be the next king ruler of the Roman Republic. And he finds out about this, and he gets his father killed. Richard Harris, he gets his father killed, and what happens is then, his lieutenants and people close to him are kind of banished, and Russell Crowe doesn't really want to have anything to do with the new emperor. So basically, he goes back to modern day Vienna, and he finds out that his wife and kid are murdered, and his place is ransacked, and he gets kidnapped anyway, and he's put into some kind of gladiatorial arena under stewardship of Oliver Reed, Proximal. And Oliver Reed was a former gladiator himself. He was under the guidance of Richard Harris's Marcus Aurelius, and he was released by Marcus Aurelius. So he had a lot of time for the previous ruler of Rome. And he showed basically then, Oliver Reed is telling them, you got to win the crowd, win your freedom. And he goes sparring, because he had the military training, he goes sparring with a lot of different gladiators, and he wins the respect of his fellow gladiators and the crowd. And he comes into Rome then, and he's fighting a lot of different people. And you have him winning a lot of contests, because Commodus wants 150 days of feasts, and there's all these fighting gladiators happening, and he wins a lot of these contests and becomes a big star. And there's just this famous scene then in Gladiator where Russell Crowe is wearing his mask, and he's told to remove it by Commodus, so he turns around and removes it, and he says, "My name is Maximus Decimus Minius, commander of the forces to the north, heir to the royal, the true leader, Marcus Aurelius, husband to a murdered wife, father to a murdered son, and I shall take my revenge in this life or the next." And Commodus, of course, is shocked in his life, and he's got a sister, and his son, her son is there as well. And it kind of comes down to a death scene then. So it's kind of a duel. Then we're back to the 1977 with Ridley Scott and his duelists. But this time we have two different duelists. We have Russell Crowe and Joaquin Phoenix. And Russell Crowe makes short change of Commodus very quickly with a few little knife, stabbing him with different knives. And then Joaquin Phoenix stabs him with a knife to begin with, and then Russell Crowe soon dispatches him. But he had hurt him at the start of the fight, so he ends up dying anyway. Russell Crowe, and he just wants a better Roman Republic, and just let the Senate take over, and let a certain ruler be in place for a better Roman Republic to come. And it was back to more kind of blockbuster type films for Ridley Scott, because Scott in the previous 10 years, in the 1990s, he made Thelma and Louise in 1991, and he went off making, there's a movie I must watch with Nicolas Cage as well, and I think Matchstick Man. Yeah, I like the color code, the kind of blue filter on the film as well. And he made a few more kind of films as well, like Black Hawk Down, which is a great film around that time as well, around the time of Gladiator. And he was making Hannibal then afterwards, kind of just another kind of Silence of the Lambs film. I remember seeing that. And yeah, the last 20 years, I was watching a movie during the week, one of his movies as well, Russell Crowe and Body of Lies with Leonardo DiCaprio. It's more of a kind of documentary about um, of Iraq and Afghanistan. Really, there's a nice story between DiCaprio and the kind of the nurse in the film. I like that story, but it's more of a documentary than a film. I don't really see the point of it being made in the first place. I mean, he made a film over here in Ireland, Ridley Scott, Kingdom of Heaven. So after making a movie recently called The Last Duel, it was got great reviews with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, Jodie Comer, and yeah, I mean Adam Driver was in the film as well. But the criticism of Ridley Scott is that there's kind of nothing in the films. But then the same thing was saying of Alfred Hitchcock. There's like style over substance. But the same couldn't really be said of his younger brother, Tony Scott. He made kind of stylish films, but they're always entertaining. Like there's something happening in it. You know what I mean? I mean, the movie Dune being released at the moment. It was made in 1984 by David Lynch, but it was originally supposed to be directed by Ridley Scott, but he pulled out because his older brother died and he didn't feel up to making the film at the time. And Denis Villeneuve now at the moment, he made Arrival and he made Blade Runner 2049. He's after making the film, and everyone's saying it's a great film. People are telling me now to go and see it as well. So I must see that on the big screen. But the original wasn't done correctly, I think, because David Lynch, it's kind of maybe a 2-part, 3-part movie, and he put it all into one movie. You know, so like Denis Villeneuve now is going to make a part 2 to the Dune. So, but they say the style of the film is in the movie, like, do you know what I mean? Like, David Lynch must have thought he was Ridley Scott or something, because the interior styles of the film are actually meant to be better than the up-to-date, the new movie we released. Must see Kermod's review on it. Mark Kermod, I haven't seen it yet, but it's went to Timothée Chalamet. He's in the film, and we've got a few good actors as well. One of the kind of best actors the last 20 years in the film, an actor called Oscar Isaacs, and there's a new film coming up soon with Oscar Isaacs, The Card Counter, directed by writer-director Paul Schrader. So that's the film reviews of this week. Ridley Scott, his movies Alien, Someone to Watch Over Me, and Gladiator. You can like our Facebook page, nearmedia.tv, and you can watch our YouTube channel and subscribe to our YouTube channel, nearmedia.tv.